Hi, Anthony Smith here, COO of EMF Safe. We are the American manufacturers of the UL listed EMF Safe Switch. Dan Everson, our CEO, is the inventor of the original EMF kill switch, the EMF sleep switch, and now in its present form, the EMF Safe Switch. This is a remote cutoff device for your home that allows you to switch off unwanted EMF, allowing you to create an EMF mitigated sleep sanctuary. We empower you to safely switch off and be in control of the EMF in your home. Welcome to the Experts Interview Series. Enjoy. Well, I'd like to welcome Peter Sierck to our Experts Interview Series. And Peter is a building biologist, senior industrial hygienist, and principal of the Environmental Testing and Technology, Inc., which is abbreviated ET&T, located in San Diego, California. He chairs the EMF and RF Solutions Division at ET&T. Peter grew up in Germany, where he received his formal education and building biology training. And Peter has conducted professional electromagnetic field EMF surveys and field deduction methods for the past 30 plus years. His experience and expertise include testing and mitigation of low frequency AC, electric and magnetic fields, radio frequency, RF, emissions, and dirty power issues. His work entails conducting building surveys, developing and implementing shielding methods, and designing low EMF RF sanctuaries in buildings. Peter's goal is creating low EMF indoor environments to create healthier and safer places for its occupants. So Peter, thank you very much for taking your time to be here with us. So maybe you could tell us how you first got into this.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. So it's a pleasure being here. How did I get into all of this? Well, my first part of life, I lived in Germany. I grew up there, and I actually became a naturopathic physician. And while seeing patients, many of them received the best treatment. I mean, the traditional medical treatment as well as alternative treatment, and some wouldn't budge. And so I asked myself, why is that so? And that led me into doing a little bit of research, and I found my thought was there must be a trigger, something which sustains the symptoms people have, and that's why they're not getting better. And that led me to the environment, the indoor environment or work environment, where people spend a lot of time. And so I was looking around to educate myself, and I found the Building Biology Institute in Germany, and I took my first environmental training over there. And they pay a lot of attention on the bedroom, because that's where we stay for, let's say, 8 hours a day. That's 1/3 of our lifetime in one location. So that's why that's a very important part. Plus, we are sleeping at night. We're regenerating. We're recharging our batteries. During the day, we're outgoing mode. So that was one focus. The second focus, what I learned was that they paid a lot of attention to electromagnetic fields. So from the AC magnetic fields to the electric fields to the radio frequency. And actually, their predominant issue with EMF was that we need to address the electric field issues, because that's where we found that most people have the most benefit by reducing their exposure to electromagnetic field. So eventually I immigrated to the United States, looked for more training and actually set up a company, because nobody was around there dealing with the indoor environment. So we conduct indoor air quality surveys. We test for moisture issues, mold issues, asbestos, radon gas, lead poisoning, lead-based paint, and so on. And for a long time, electromagnetic fields were not a big issue here in the United States, but that's significantly changed. So that's how I got into dealing with electromagnetic fields, trying to create healthy home environments for people.
Wonderful. And I know that electromagnetic hypersensitivity is a recognized condition in Europe, not so much here. In light of what you were saying, I know there's an awful lot of emphasis right now being put on radio frequencies because of cell phone towers and things, which is definitely an issue that needs to be looked at and addressed.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to specialize in dirty electricity, and they see that as being the the elephant in the room for them.
Yeah.
But it's our contention that the electromagnetic field, and I say especially at night, could you speak to the importance of including electromagnetic fields in measuring and mitigation, not just the magnetic fields, radio frequency, dirty electricity?
Well, I think all of it has an impact on potential human health and creating a healthy indoor environment. So our perspective is to actually go and assess. That means find out what are really the factors which are a little bit off base where we could do some mitigation. So, like as you mentioned, some people just focus on one particular item. Let's say right now it's dirty electricity and you do plug in a filter and then everything is honky-dory. That's not our approach. Our approach is to actually measure all the different type of fields and then make a judgment call on what is economically feasible to achieve. And so it depends on what the main contributing forces are. Obviously, if you have a cellular antenna on top of your roof, then that may be a major contributing factor, and you may need to do some shielding for radio frequencies. Magnetic fields from power lines and substations, unfortunately, we have very little tools to address that, because it would require, sheet metal shielding, and you can't have any opening. So it's not really economically feasible, put it this way.
Right.
There are some active countermeasurements tools available, but again, that's a very complex process. So why not pick the low-hanging fruits? And so
exactly right.
So the lowest hanging fruit in everyone's bedroom here in the United States, I think Europe probably as well, is electric fields. Why? Because we got current on our electrical wiring system throughout the house. And so we're going to have electrical wiring behind the headboard for the outlets, which are present on either side of a bed. And so if you take a tool which measures electric fields, we'll find out that the levels are somewhere between 5 volts, 7 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, depending on how much wiring is in there and so on. And so according to building biology, you want to reduce that below 1 if possible, 1 volt per meter if possible. So what kind of tools do you have available? Well, during new construction, it's the easiest because we can use metal-cladded wiring systems where we basically have a metal conduit around our wiring, and that will shield off a lot of the electric fields. So that's one option, but that's really only applicable in new construction. In existing buildings and retrofitting, there are 2 methods left over, and that one is to apply a shielding material against that wall and then to ground that out so that the field actually it's diverted into ground and not getting to you. And the other option, and a more practical option in my opinion, is to have a cutoff switch. And I think that's one of your products which you guys carry, is a device which can be installed on this circuit breaker box, and then one has a remote control and can turn the circuits off, and then all of a sudden you should have 0 volts per meter. So, but all of that needs to be checked if you want to implement something like that. So you got to measure up front, and then you have to find out which particular circuits they are. Because what we found is that if you just randomly, without assessing it, install something, you may turn off not the right circuits. And so you want to have tools to measure and make sure you address all the circuits. And so that requires then the installation and then afterwards the verification testing. Yeah.
Yeah, we work with building biologists. We've got a number of affiliates that are building biologists and EMF consultants associated with other groups. And we highly recommend. We get phone calls from people and say, well, I just got one circuit in my bedroom, so I just need to turn off the one circuit. And we say, well, have you measured? And they go, well, why do I need to measure? And it says, well, you might have 5 or 6 other wires running underneath your bed or through the wall going somewhere else in the house, and they're all putting out a field. So yeah, we do recommend people call professionals like yourself, building biologists, EMF consultants, to come out and measure professionally, because you guys have some pretty expensive and very sensitive equipment, which is probably the most accurate way of assessing the whole situation and then coming up with a solution. We do offer a body voltage kit, which allows people to measure relatively inexpensively. They can measure themselves and find out, if there are any hidden circuits in the house that need to be turned off to create that sleep sanctuary environment. Could you address that?
Yeah, as mentioned before, the bedroom is really the most important place because that's where we spend 1/3 of our lifetime. And we are supposed to recuperate from the events of the day, right? And so I think that is the most important part. So however, what many people forget, it's not only turning the circuit off, you also have to see what else you got in your bedroom, right? Do you have your cell phone next to you? Do you have a Wi-Fi device inside your room? So there are a lot of considerations when you do this kind of a mitigation. You need to look at the whole picture, the whole building. What do you have in that particular room? For example, if you turn that circuit off and you have a fridge on that circuit, that's doesn't work, right? So you have to accommodate for that. Or if somebody has a sleep apnea machine in their bedroom, which needs to run at night, so you have to make accommodations for that. So sometimes it's a more complex process than just flipping off a circuit. Some people also tend to say, why do I need a cutoff switch if I can just go out with a flashlight and turn off the circuit breakers? Well, circuit breakers are not designed to be turned on and off, so that's not a good idea. They're not laid out for that. So you want to have another device which is actually designed and manufactured for that purpose.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that they can do that and it's safe. I mean, it's not exactly convenient depending upon the layout of your house and how far you need to go. But yes, breakers are not switch rated, and switching them on and off once in a blue moon, occasionally when you work on the house, obviously is what they're designed to do. But switching them on and off on a regular basis can actually compromise the integrity of that switch, so that when you do have a short circuit or lightning strike in the neighborhood or something like that, that's when you want those things to work. So we at EMF Safe, we want people to be live EMF safe from the EMF in their environment and to reduce that down as much as possible. But we also want them to be safe in their home and not be run the risk of having a short circuit and the house burning down in the night, heavens forbid, which is fortunately quite rare, but we've heard of cases when that's happened. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we do encourage people to be safe.
Yeah, this whole topic of electromagnetic fields or EMF or RF, radio frequency, has really gained a lot of attention nowadays by the general public, by scientists, and even now the medical professionals. So that is really an important factor, which is now becoming to the awareness of many people. And so it reflects in many different ways. For example, we have a client who builds medical facilities, and they actually have us go out and measure the vacant lots they tend to purchase, because they want to make sure that their medical equipment is not going to be exposed to extremely high EMF or radio frequency fields, which could cause some kind of interference. So there's more and more awareness as we are increasing the amount of digital devices we're using, right? So
yeah, I think we are exposed to probably 100 or 1,000 times more the electromagnetic fields than our parents, or certainly our grandparents, were. And it is my understanding that EMF, all types of EMF, is cumulative, which is why, and we use the analogy of people who go to our website, they'll see the analogy of the straw that breaks the camel's back. And the straw that breaks the camel's back for some people is a smart meter or a cell phone tower in the neighborhood. We estimate that about 80% of people's EMF exposure is actually coming from inside their homes. And certainly at night, you do have absolute control over those circuits and can turn them off, because you don't need most of them to be on. So that's obviously the most efficient and effective way of doing that. And we do offer to people during the daytime, if you actually turn off the room that you're in and run a shielded cord in to power the things that you need to. And you mentioned the CPAP machine. That's an option that we offer people. We'll turn off the room, so all of those circuits are turned off. And then one of the circuits in the house that's left on, run in a shielded cord, run your CPAP machine or any other medical equipment. So yes, there are solutions. And it's good to know, Peter, that there's professionals out there with years of experience like yourself who can look at and cover all these eventualities and give people the solutions that they need.
Yep, that is something which we are proud of doing, and we try to do that in the most professional manner and in a cost-effective manner to our clients. I mean, there are consumer devices out there where you can test your home relatively easily yourself for some scanning equipment that ranges between $100 and $400. However, they can never be as reliable as a professional piece of equipment because it's calibrated, and you're talking about a different price range. You're talking about $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for equipment. But these consumer instruments are a good indicator if something is wrong. And as you mentioned, the body voltage kit is one way to assess electric fields. Other tools, which are a little bit more reliable, yeah, but that's not what the general consumer has in their pocket, right?
You know, ideally speaking, using an oscilloscope or something like that is obviously going to give you a much more accurate reading. But our argument, again, is that, you know, if you're starting out at 3,000, 4,000 millivolts on a body voltage meter, and you're turning off circuits and reducing it down to 30 or 40 millivolts, you know, 10% variance at 3,000 is 300, but 10% variance at 30 millivolts is only 3 millivolts. And so the biggest important is not the actual reading, but the difference between where you start off and where you end up, and getting, and I think the Building Biology Institute recommends using the building, when you use the body voltage method, to get it down below 100 millivolts. And it's fairly easy for most people to do that. And again, make an informed decision by measuring. And I said, if they can't call an expert out like yourself, then order some relatively inexpensive equipment and measure and make that informed decision.
Yeah, so thank you for actually bringing this product to market, because for a long time here in the US, we did not have a choice of this particular piece of equipment. As I mentioned, I started out in Europe, and since I started 30 years ago, there were cutoff switches that you could install onto the circuit breaker box, right. But it wasn't available here. So for a long time, we had to actually deal with putting shielding paint on walls. And it sounds very simple. People think, oh, I'll just slap some paint on the wall and I'm done. It's not that simple, because number one, you need to prepare the surface first so that you really have a good adhesion to the shielding paint. So you may have to have a primer. So that's one coat you need to apply. Then you need to apply a coat of that paint. You want to have two coats, so it's a third time around you paint. You have to let the paint dry in between. So you're talking about already a few days. Then you have to you want to bring it back to the color you had before, white or yellow or red or whatever your bedroom color was. So you have to put another primer on top of it. And then you have to put the final coat on paint on this. So you may be painting 5 times. And so if you hire a professional painter, that costs quite some money too. Plus, you need to get an electrician involved to actually install a proper ground to the shielding system, because otherwise it's not going to work. So there's quite a bit of work involved. So it's an easier solution to have an electrician directly install it on the electrical circuit breaker panel, and then all you have to do is click on a little switch and turn them on and off. So I like that concept.
Yeah, and when, of course, when you turn off that circuit, you're not only turning off the electric field, but any dirty electricity associated with it. You're turning off the magnetic field, if there was any there to begin with. You're turning off any radio frequencies associated with that circuit. And so it really is at least as far as those circuits are concerned, a total solution. And we are an American company. The product is manufactured in America. We are UL listed, so people don't have to worry about it. Complies with building code across the United States and Canada. So again, we are offering a complete product made in America and third-party tested and verified. So, well, thank you, Peter, for
thank you for the product and for the little chat here.
And, you know, being a voice to the community for so long, and people can look you up, Google your name, and they'll find an awful lot of information, your website, and the details are there on the bottom of the screen. And thank you for everything you've contributed to the EMF mitigating community over the many years that you put in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All
right.
Appreciate
Farewell.
it.